All right, let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about one of the biggest puzzles in AI today, memory. We're going to unpack how developers are teaching AI not just to talk to us, but to actually remember us using this really fascinating discipline called context engineering. You know that feeling, right? You spend like 10 minutes carefully explaining a project to an AI, and then in the very next prompt, poof, it's all gone. It's like you're starting from scratch. It's a super common frustration, but what if I told you that forgetfulness isn't actually a bug? That's right. It's actually a core part of how today's large language models, or LLMs, are built. And, this creates a huge challenge. How in the world do you build a genuinely helpful AI assistant if it can't even remember who you are or what you were talking about 5 minutes ago? Okay, let's dig into this for a second. At their very core, LLMs are what we call stateless. So outside of that giant mountain of data they were trained on, they only know what you put right in front of them in something called the context window. So every single time you hit send, it's like you're talking to a brand new AI that has zero history with you beyond what's on the screen at that moment. So, how do we fix this? Well, the answer is in this really sophisticated process that goes way beyond just writing a good prompt. It's a whole engineering discipline called context engineering, and it is the secret sauce to building intelligent, stateful agents. I just love this analogy. Before a chef creates some amazing dish, they do their mise en place, right? They get every single ingredient chopped, measured, and perfectly arranged. Well, context engineering is the AI version of that. It's all about preparing and arranging all the pieces of information an LLM is going to need before it generates even a single word. So the key thing to get here is that this isn't about one single static prompt. No, it's a dynamic, living process. For every single turn in a conversation, it's selecting, summarizing, and injecting different kinds of information, like your chat history, your preferences, maybe some external data, right into that context window. And to pull this off, you really need two key components. First up is the session. Just think of this as a temporary box for one specific conversation. It holds all the back and forth dialogue and basically acts as the AI's short-term scratch pad. But when the conversation ends, that session is over and done with. And this is where the real magic happens. The second component is memory. This is the system that's built for the long haul. It carefully captures the most important bits of information from all those temporary sessions and stores them away, letting the AI build up this continuous, personalized understanding of you over time. To really nail down the difference between a session and memory, let's use another brilliant analogy. A session is like your workbench. When you're in the middle of a project, it's a total mess, right? It's covered in notes, tools, half-finished ideas. It's chaotic, temporary, and totally specific to what you're doing right now. Now, you wouldn't just take that entire messy workbench and shove it in a closet. No way. Instead, you create memory, which is like a perfectly organized filing cabinet. You sort through the mess on the workbench, you toss the rough drafts, and you file away only the final critical documents. That filing cabinet becomes your clean, reliable source of truth for every future project. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking. Hey, this sounds an awful lot like retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, where an AI goes and pulls info from a knowledge base. And that's a great question, but they actually serve two totally different purposes. And this comparison just illustrates the difference perfectly. Think of RAG as the AI's research librarian. It goes to a huge shared library of static documents to pull up established facts about the world. But memory is the AI's personal assistant. It follows you around with a little private notebook, jotting down dynamic, personal details about you, your likes, your goals, what you talked about last week. So RAG makes an AI an expert on facts. Memory makes it an expert on you. Okay, so we've got these concepts of sessions and memory down. But how does an AI actually decide what's important enough to remember? Especially when a conversation starts to get really long. So that context window we talked about, it's kind of like a suitcase with a fixed size. You can't just keep stuffing every single word from a long conversation into it. It would get way too expensive, way too slow, and honestly, the AI would just lose focus. A savvy traveler knows they can't bring their whole closet. They have to be smart and pack only what's essential. Well, an AI has to do the exact same thing with information. And to pack that suitcase efficiently, these agents have a few tricks up their sleeve. Compaction strategies. They might use a simple sliding window that just keeps, say, the last 10 turns of a conversation. Or they can just chop off the oldest messages when they hit a certain limit. But the really clever one is recursive summarization, where they use another AI to turn the older parts of the chat into a neat little summary.
But here's where it gets really cool. It's not just about cutting down. There's a specialized system called a memory manager, and it acts like a diligent gardener, constantly pruning, weeding, and tending to the AI's knowledge base to make sure it stays healthy, organized, and actually useful.
And that gardener follows a pretty clear 4-step process. You can think of it like a data pipeline, but for memories. First, it ingests the raw conversation data. Second, an LLM sifts through it and extracts just the meaningful bits of information. Third, and this step is absolutely crucial, it consolidates that new info. It merges duplicates, resolves conflicting facts, and deletes things that are now out of date. And finally, it stores that curated, polished memory in a database for the future.
So why does all this complex engineering matter so much? Because these systems, they are the absolute key to unlocking the next generation of AI assistants that are actually truly helpful.
I mean, think about what a robust memory system unlocks. We're talking about true personalization, an AI that actually knows you. It keeps conversations fast and affordable by managing that context window. It lets us find insights by looking at trends across tons of interactions. And it even allows the AI agents to improve themselves over time by learning which memory strategies actually work best.
So here's the bottom line. Context engineering, with its careful dance between sessions and memory, is what's going to transform AI from a generic amnesiac chatbot into a true personalized companion, an expert on you, ready to help because it has a deep understanding of your world. And that really leaves us with a fascinating final thought. As this technology gets more and more powerful, we really have to ask ourselves, if an AI could have a perfect, permanent memory built just for you, what would you trust it to hold? Your projects, your private thoughts, your entire personal history? The possibilities are as massive as the implications.